Faithful viewer, and welcome to the APAT show. Leigh, we've got a bit on tonight, haven't we?
We have. I thought for a minute we'd broken Facebook because everyone was lagging, but we seem to be good. We
seem to be working, right?
Seem to be live. I know. Yeah, been a few weeks since we've done a Sunday show, but we are very much back, and yeah, it's action packed. We've got a big satellite going on at the moment, which you can get into. You've got 8 minutes left to get into that, so we'll get onto that. But also we got a couple of guests because we've got a huge couple of weeks before the WSOP starts, and so we're very much talking about our WSOP fantasy competition tonight. So we have the fantasy competition guru John Murray, and we asked Dan Williams if he wanted to come along as well. So he got dressed up. He got dressed up in a fancy shirt and everything for us. So evening, Dan, to you as well.
Thank you very much. I wore it for John.
Evening, gents.
I figured this would be John's colour.
Dan, we should be asking, are you in Miami or something? Because it seems like you have a whole lot of daylight sort of hitting your face. But I guess it isn't daylight, right?
No, not where I am. No, it's nice and dark in the office. But
nice and dark.
I figured somebody might want to see my face. So,
well, we never have this problem with one John Murray down on the south coast. I can see that evening has landed down there. John, how are you?
Is it a bit dark, Des?
Only as dark as it ever is, John. So absolutely no problem.
I'm looking a bit red in the face, I think. But anyway,
to be honest, we're all a bit red in the face, I have to say. It's been a great weekend, guys. Did we get up to anything? Did we go out and, get the sun or anything like that? I mean, I can tell you I did.
Yeah, it was my daughter's birthday party today. So we've had 10 9-year-olds under our due care, which is never fun, but a big treasure hunt around the village that we live in. Some homemade pizzas, and I'm absolutely knackered. So you're very fortunate I'm still awake, or very unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. But
to be honest, Leigh, that sounds like a typical APAT weekend there, I have to say.
Yeah, it does. It does do that. Before we go on too much further, I should just say, so you have got up on the screen there the satellite tonight. It's the APAT Sunday Live satellite on grosvenorpoker.com. It's a £30 buy-in to get you a £140 APAT Players' Choice seat for 2025, or more importantly for Coventry, that starts this Wednesday. The European Championship of Amateur Poker starts in 3 days' time. So we normally guarantee 2 tickets for this. We've kind of plodded along there the past few weeks with those. But tonight it's gone a little bit bonkers. 24 runners in this at the moment. So we've currently got 4 seats plus a little bit of cash for 5th, 6th and 7th at the moment. One more entry and we'll get to 5 seats. So if you want to get involved in this, you've got about 6 minutes worth of late registration to get involved if you want to try and bag yourself a seat. Don't have to use it for Coventry this week, although, say, huge schedule on from Wednesday, 5 days of poker at the Grosvenor Casino in Coventry attached to them. football stadium. But if you don't want to use it for any of those 12 events, you can use it for any event later on this year. So we're at Liverpool after that. Then we've got the Worlds in August. Then in the autumn, we're heading down John's neck of the woods, down to Portsmouth for an event. We're also in Leeds. On what am I missing? Malta, Ash, London. So loads to choose from. So whatever takes your fancy if you want to get involved. But you have got 5 minutes if you want to get into this satellite. And whilst we're going to be chatting all things fantasy WSOP and talking through, I'm hoping you guys are going to give me some advice on who I need in my team this year, to be perfectly honest. But we will keep an eye on the satellite in the background, and because this is going to play down to a final table of 8, and pretty much kind of half of the table are going to get a seat here, so it should be quite good fun to watch this final table when we get there. 14 left at the moment, so yeah, you've got 5 minutes if you fancy getting involved in this. I know, Dan, you are sat in playing, aren't you? I believe
I am, yeah, in my usual position of short stack, which is no change there, but fine. So
basically, if you bought in now, you'll have more chips than Dan's got at the moment. Yeah, so that's the way to look at this.
That sentence
you will be at an advantage. Yeah,
well,
that sentence is true no matter when you register in any tournament, I think is fair to say.
It is a well-used
sentence. So Dan's in there as Bjorn Heiderstrom. I can see Seymour Tilts is playing, which is Alan Ellis. I don't know who Baggy's 1968 is, because I know Brian Yates has got a different username on Grosvenor, so I don't think that's him. Damien D, I'm going to assume, is Damien Dakiewicz. Now, Nuts and Iron is playing, which I believe is going to be Nye Venables, I would assume. So,
yes.
So I'm going to assume that's the case. One Time Tell is there. PT Buto is Rich Baker. He's already bagged a seat a couple of weeks ago. True Baba Yaga is Eddie. So he's playing. And current chip leader at the moment is Razor Roy. So you've got a few minutes left in if you want to get into that. So that's one deadline, but of course we are getting very close to the fantasy competition deadline. If you want to get in from the off, because as you'll know if you've played the competition before, John and Carl will leave it open for a few weeks for the stragglers. John, when's the first tournament in Vegas?
Yeah, 27th of May, which I think is the Tuesday of next week. So about 9 days time.
10 days, 9 days time. So yeah,
not a lot of time left.
And people can start scoring points from the off. From the off,
yeah. We give points for every tournament, every bracelet tournament. So it doesn't matter if they're restricted or if they're seniors only or the women only, or the very first one is dealers only. But we give points for that as well.
But John, is it dealers only?
Sorry, I mean, poker is it staff or something like that?
Is it dealers?
I think we need to get into that, Leigh.
I vlog. John, can I enter? I do a vlog. Can I?
I'm a pro. Can I play?
Yeah. Well, I'm not responsible for that.
I deal drugs. Am I in?
I expect Dan would be eligible to enter.
I played it last year. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Never dealt a hand in his life.
When I was adding up the points, the scores from last year, Dan.
But for anybody that doesn't even know what the hell we're talking about, so we should explain that John and Carl have run for a number of years. I'm not sure how many years has it been going, John? Now,
must be at least it's more than a decade anyway. It must be 12 or 13.
Absolutely. So run a fantasy competition. So basically, you can just pick any 10 players that you like. You can go into the Facebook group. There's a link in there where you can submit your team and how you can pay your entry into it. And basically then those players will all earn points depending on where they finish in all of the bracelet events at the WSOP. And basically, the winner or top 3 or 4 winning squads split the cash basically, and the additional prizes that are also up for grabs as well that Carl tends to look after. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, we had 8 prize winners last year because we had I think it's 116 or something. So we had over £1,000 for prizes. So we ended up dividing. Carl did a bit of a vox pop to ask how people wanted the prizes split up, and I think they went for quite a spread as opposed to a small number getting them. So we had 8 prize winners plus all the spot prizes that happen as the event goes along, which Carl sponsors himself. He sponsors some of them. We do get help from other organizations such as APAT, and Poker News has helped before, and some others have donation prizes.
It's super fun, and it's a really good way to be able to follow what's going on at the World Series, John, because you put a huge amount of time and effort into kind of updating what's going on and giving people a little bit of feedback as to how the players are going on, what's happening. So I find it a really useful way of just keeping up to date with what's going on. If I haven't got time to go through the pages and pages of updates on Poker News, which Dan and Dan's team, produce, so beautifully. But sometimes it's just easier to go and see what John Murray said happened yesterday in Vegas, and that tells me enough.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that now, because we've actually just pre-WSOP, we've been working for about 6 or 7 months on an addition to the website. So now, if you have an account on Poker News, which is free, there's a section called My Players, and in My Players you can literally go through our database and add your favorite players. So maybe you want to follow Daniel Negreanu, or maybe you want to follow Leigh Wiltshire, or maybe you want to check John's work. I don't know. Maybe some people do, but you'll be able to.
I genuinely thought for a minute Dan was about just to announce they've got an AI version of John Murray in the Poker News office. That's where I thought we were going.
It sounds like they have.
We have.
That's what it sounds like they have, Leigh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We press a button and the little robot goes and does all the hoovering and stuff. I think, is that what you mean? No?
So Dan, tell us more. So if I set up a free account on pokernews.com, and I promise everyone this wasn't set up beforehand, if we do that, and I input the 5, 10, 15 players. Maybe I input my fantasy poker team, right? Mm-hmm. Does it push notifications, or do I have to go back into my account and it kind of it just filters out updates from the floor on those players? So
we haven't done push notifications. They will be at some point. Not WSOP, because from a testing standpoint, if something were to be if there was a bug in the system, that would be a nightmare during the WSOP with the amount of players we expect to be followed. But in essence, you'll just have a list, so you can see the last event they were in. You can click it through and see all of their caches. So for the WSOP, for a fantasy thing, it's quite interesting, because if you've got a favorite player, you can click there. It will show all the Hender Mob data, show the biography that we've got, but you can also then find what they've been playing in, click into that event, see where they cached, or unscribe that into
neat.
Got something going on. But it's quite a nice way. Think of it as like, my stable for the horse racing. You've got You can follow those throughout the year. You can do this with poker players in essence now.
Do we have the ability, John, or Dan rather, as I know we do within each individual update itself, but could I just hit a flag for Great Britain and a flag for Ireland, for example, and then it gives me a feed of just those players?
Not iteration. Iteration 1 is players. We're going to test it during the WSOP to see kind of like I said, what bugs will appear, because it's been something we've been working on for a while, but it's just gone live literally a couple of days ago now. But there will be the kind of on the floor plan for the growth of it is to be able to kind of do UK-based players, build out whatever kind of filtering system you want on Poker News to be able to do that. Good. I mean, interestingly, if you go into an event now, you are already able to filter for country. So, for example, the 888 event's happening in Barcelona. If you go into the chip counts, you can favorite players and add them to your list, or you can click on the filter option and click UK, etc., whatever badges are kind of applicable. So you'll be able to do that from an event by event perspective. But in the longer term strategy for it, you'll be able to kind of, in essence, filter out whatever you want. And you're kind of turning Poker News into a filtered version of like a Twitter feed almost, of what you want to see versus everything else
Yeah.
Will John be able to filter out Carl? Because I think there are times where he'd quite like to be able to filter out Carl.
Not possible.
Is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Just in case, let me just email the tech team now, and I'll.
It's a big development, guys. We have to, filter out the captain. Not possible. Listen, there's a bunch of the guys out there in the chat, so we should say a quick hello to Mr. Forty, who's there. Eddie is there, of course. Mr. Adakiewicz, who was a recent winner on Poker Raffles, Leigh, and I heard you mention his name. He's playing tonight. Good evening to you, Damien.
He will have been playing UKPC warm up today, I think, if I'm right.
Let us know how you got on, Damien.
Steve Forty played yesterday with Kevin. I think Damien won the other one, if I remember rightly, and was playing it today.
I think you could well be right. Yeah, you could well be right. So he'll let us know, I'm sure. Steve says in relation to the Fantasy World Series of Poker. Well, first of all, he says, look, enjoyed the UKPC warm-up event at DTD. He says, always love the show. The Fantasy Poker is great. Yeah, so obviously this is one we do every year now. And everybody loves the Fantasy Poker, of course, Fantasy World Series of Poker. Steve goes on to say, is Alan Kessler entering again this year, John?
We hope so.
Don't know if we've heard anything from Alan yet. It's when is shutdown? I automatically associate the closing of entries with the day that Carl does my two teams. But when is it for everybody else?
Well, it's. I mean, when it goes live on the 27th is
it the 27th?
The close, but we do then have late entries. For a while after that, we've tended to do it up to the 10th tournament, which is usually about a week.
Just lose.
People
just
can
lose the points
pick
for
someone, and then that person we find out isn't playing or hasn't turned up for some reason. Then it means they're not stuck with them; that they can swap them out and swap somebody else in.
Sweet. Okay. Simon is out there. Naturally, you get a few niche type teams. Mr. Lawler says, I have a team solely comprising of Dans.
Oh, he did that before. He had the team of Dans previously.
Do you remember we had the wins? Who had the wins?
Oh, was it Paxo?
It could have been Dave Paxson. And didn't he have a disastrous time with them, despite the fact that there are a lot of really strong players with the surname Win.
And there was another Win who finished second or something.
Right.
He didn't have him.
Didn't have him. Frank Bailey's out there. Evening, guys. Evening to you, Frank. Stefan is out there. Evening to you, sir. Damien says, busted 2 levels before day 2. 2 levels, went deep. But no,
that's
no
pretty good.
2.
To be just to be 2 levels shy of day 2 in the UKPC warm up is pretty good going. Well done.
Damn good performance.
Yeah, good run.
And Rich Baker's out there. The Fandango filter. Yeah, there you go. The
sounds like it should
filter.
Be some sort of film, shouldn't it?
The Fandango. It sounds like the sort of thing that Ian Fleming might have taken a stab at some years ago.
Candidate or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just on the satellite. Late reg closed. Unfortunately, we ended up with 24 runners, so we've got 4 seats up for grabs, and 5th is going to get £56, 6th is going to get 33, and 7th is going to get 22. So pretty much going to pay most of the final table when we get there. We're down to 9 actually, so we're only one off hitting a final table, and then we'll follow all
Fantastic.
of that as to go. So I mean, the way I normally go, John, with my team is I normally go and find my notes from the teams I picked last year, because I normally have a couple of teams, and then I then try and work out who's. Hopefully they're all still alive, which is obviously a good starting point. Is assuming that's the case, and checking that actually they're all still actually playing or actively playing, because I guess that's the biggest issue that people have, is knowing who's actively playing. And obviously this year it feels even more so that people are being quite vocal about maybe how much they're going to play. Are they going to play? Traveling to the US seems to be more of a hassle for people over 30 days if you're not a US citizen. What have you heard about kind of the issues that people might have in actually getting out there to play a full schedule at the series?
Well, I mean, if people want to go, that they can go. Most of the people who get picked, I mean, are American anyway. People do throw in, you know, occasionally UK players or European players or even one or two Asians, but you know, we tend to be talking about Americans anyway. So I'm not sure it's going to have much of an effect, really. I'm sure that we're still going to have millions of players to choose from. I mean, on the question, actually, we've changed a little bit this year on the question of who do you pick? And some people aren't really that familiar with the players and so on. So we have listed on the entry form this time a list of a lot of the well-known players, basically everyone who's been picked previously in the fantasy league.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But there is space if people want to add their own player, they can do, or play with more than one player, as many as they want. They can do that.
So what you're saying, John, is Des has got no excuse this year not to actually pick his own team, even if he wants to print that out and get him on the dartboard and just and fire a few arrows at the board and see what hits. Yeah, he's got no excuse really to get somebody else to do his team.
Well, I think Carl has picked him quite a good team, didn't you?
Yeah, so he absolutely failed miserably last year, but you know, he still got the entries in on time, which, to be honest, I would have failed at. But the year before, I ended up with like a medal, socks, cuddly toy. I think there might have been a toothbrush. I got a lot of stuff in the post. It was like Christmas.
So who are the big obvious picks, John? Is it the same players every year, or are we seeing new names appearing in recent years? Because it always feels like it's the Negranus and the Helmuths and, you know, kind of the Sean Deebs of this world that, you know, are going to play a big schedule. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it largely is. But there are a number of players. I mean, it's a bit like the Grand National. I think that, you know, the way to score is to pick players who've gone around the course previously, you know, and that there's a number of players who are just always there. And it's not just those ones, but I mean, those ones do figure quite prominently. Maybe not last year. I think, don't think Negranu, he had a middling year. I don't think Helmut did as well, although I think didn't he pick up a race that last year. But apart from that, he didn't do well, I think. But yeah, I mean, last year, Scott Seaver, I think, came out on top in our league. You know, Jeremy Osmus, John Reisner, Calvin Anderson, Chance Corneth. The same names that you see, you know, most years is showing up near the top. So
you'll notice me and Des, when you mention a name, we're quickly scribbling notes here.
Yeah, just notes.
Have I got them? Have I got them on my list? Yeah.
There is a link on our webpage, on the Facebook page, to last year's results, so you can see all the players who finished at the top last year. And there, it's a good indication of who's probably going to do the same again this year.
I can just I've just noticed he's in the chat now. I know Pete Wigglesworth is going out to play a bit of the series this year. What's the chance of somebody picking Pete in their team?
I think Pete will pick him.
Well, he's one of the definites, certainly, like Negranu and Helmut. You have to have Pete in your team, or you're not going
to. I'd give Pete a spin. Go on, Carl, get Pete in my team.
He is going to clip that, right? That is an absolute definite. He is clipping that. We're on the final table of the satellite, so I'll just fire that up now on the screen for you. Bear with me a second.
Oh, here we go.
Also switch it across.
Look at this, getting the tech working for us.
They closed and opened a table, so we've already got an all in Nicole, and we've already lost. We've already lost one.
Nice.
So that's the bubble gone already. So Razor Roy just bust one-time tell in 8th. So we've got 7 left, but one of those is our guest Bjorn Heiderstrom, who came in as a short stack, but short stack ninja. He's 7th of 7, Dan. So how do you now turn 7th of 7 into a top 4 finish to bag yourself a seat? You've got 5 minutes to think about it because players are on a break because it's 5 to the hour.
Yeah, I might need that. Run better than other people. Get it in good. let people make mistakes, and then like they're all easy things really. Well, just keep sticking it in people's eye and hoping they fold. I think that's probably my strategy.
Not a bad way to do it. 13 Tricks is chip leader, who is Wendy, I believe, is currently out ahead. Razor Roy second. LD 86. Is that 86? B8 86. Oh, there's a lot of numbers in that, and my eyesight's not good enough. And PT Buto, which is Rich Baker, currently brings up the top 4. Alan, Damien, and Dan have got a bit of work to do if they want to not just take some money and pick up a seat. Steve Forty's got a good question in the chat. Des says, and John I'll be able to answer this, I think. So the problem picking Dean Eggs is nearly everybody picks him. So he's decided to drop him from the team this year. Is that fairly much the case? Is most people will put him in the team, John?
Most people will. Most years he does quite well, but there has been the odd year when he hasn't, and then if you didn't have him, you might have an advantage, because if everybody has him, then what's the advantage of including him? You're just going to be level with everyone else, and if you want to take a risk and to see if you can get ahead, then maybe go for someone else. I mean, there are lots of other really good players, but yeah, he does regularly score high points, and I mean, Sean Deeb is another one that they just run from one tournament to another, and they're on a mission to win Player of the Year, and they're trying to just go through as many tournaments as they can. So
did they not revamp the Player of the Year last year, or was it just being discussed last year to revamp for this year because there was some criticism over how it was being calculated, and the view was they didn't feel it was necessarily the right.
I think they did. Dan might remember.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was maybe 2 years ago now, I think, and I think they did revamp it. But
yeah,
ultimately,
they always complain about
it. if you've got players like Helmuth and Dean Eggs and Deeb that are going to fire Infinite, I don't think changing the system too much. You're never going to change it to really stop that happening. And I think, I mean, I personally have never picked Dean Eggs. I think he's an interesting character to have. Yes, he'll fire Infinite, but I think, was it last year he dropped like 1 million at the series and it did terribly. Rumor is this year he's going to concentrate more on the flagship stuff. Great, but that's higher buy-ins, tougher fields. Yes, they're smaller fields, but he's playing against the elites all day, every day. So again, could have a big upswing, could have a big downswing. I don't think anything's guaranteed. I mean, I've never won one of these, but my strategy is always to look at these kind of mid-stake grinders. I think that's where the value is. If you can pick 1 or 2 mid-stake grinders that consistently cash and are going to play everything from 500 to 5K, they're the ones that probably are going to be the differentials in winning something like this. Because, like you said, most of the big names are always already picked, and if they have a good year, then somebody with them in their team's potentially going to win. They're not always going to have a good year, and you take some of those out. And I always look at the teams once John's posted them, and it's interesting for me as like somebody that's obviously followed the game for many, many years now. There's some names that are consistent cashes, and if you look at the all-time WSOP cashes list, some of the top 20 never get picked, but they're still there, rocking up for every.
Yes,
and scoring.
And scoring,
But that's kind of the fascinating thing about this time of year, right? When you're in that, week to 2 weeks before the World Series of Poker, it seems like everything is open. Everyone's a possible winner. There's lots of enthusiasm. It's kind of slightly different when you're 6 to 8 weeks in and everybody's knackered, and the players that you'd hoped would come big or come good, haven't done so. They're struggling. But right now, anybody. I mean, we talk about the old timers, Dan. You look at those lists, players who've been sort of cashing for 30 years. Do we know, is there anyone, from that list of those old timers who might be fancied to do something this year?
I mean, there's one that I pick most years, which is Roland Israelishivi. Is, I think he's third all-time cashes, third or fourth, plays all the mixed games. Very competently, plays pretty much every event, cashes a lot. I don't think he's ever won a bracelet, ironically. I think he's maybe had some seconds back in the 70s and 80s maybe, but he's always there, and for an old boy, he's always plugging away. You got what's the Asian guy's name? Yokji. I can't always now. I have to look at it now. Where is he on my list? Yukizu got like 147 caches. He's a reg, but nobody would ever pick him. I mean, you could try and pick Menuhin if you want somebody that's going to steal your chips or angle you. You know, you could put him in as well. But even people like John Turner, you don't hear much about John Turner anymore. But massive mixed game player, goes and plays all the mixed games. One of the best mixed games players in the world, and that's a category of tournament. I think it's easy to have a huge advantage in and a skill level versus the field, and could easily pick up a bracelet and some deep runs. So yeah, I mean, it depends what you're looking for, right? If you want to have a sweat with your favorite players, you want to pick your favorite players, I try and find those little golden outliers. I've never found one, but I still try.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this year is going to be different. I think there's going to be some young bucks coming through. I know a lot of kind of the younger players, you know, like your mid-20s, early 30s grinders that are really taking this series seriously, especially because they think Europeans won't travel for as long. So there's a lot of Americans that are really kind of looking at this series as their opportunity to shine. Some of them work in the industry that I know. TJ Reed, an American lad that used to work for Huss, I think he's playing pretty much everything this year. Ryan LaPlante, who some of you may know, but he's been in and around for a long while. I know that he's playing a full series. So yeah, there's some out there. But yeah, I think either spend hours researching it or just pick the people you like.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Well, this is it. As I said, it's completely open season at the moment. Really hard to know who to pick. Crikey. Of course,
you could just get it. You just could get it all in with King Queen up against Queens and Binker King. That's an option as well, Dan. Yeah.
Nice.
They should fold Queens there. To be fair, in a satellite, I think.
Any Brits fancied this year, John or Dan? Any of them in your circle?
I think Brandon Shields is somebody to consider, having a really good year. I know he's going out for the whole schedule, and is playing pretty much everything.
We've mentioned Brandon probably the last 3 years we've done this show, and it's never really yet happened for him during the WSOP, is it really?
We final tabled the Millie Maker last year. I want to say, I might be wrong. Might have been the year before. He definitely final tabled one of the big field 1Ks last year. If I remember rightly, I'm gonna have to check that now.
I tell you what he is he does a great blog on YouTube, very, very open to the challenges of being out there and doing a big schedule. I suppose, Leigh, it's kind of, it's always asking the question, is it your one time? Because he's definitely got a one time in him. He definitely has it.
It's not okay. He hasn't just got a one time in it. He's got the ability to have a really good series, and he, it can happen. It's just, I feel we've had this conversation now for the last 2 or 3 years, and it hasn't quite necessarily worked for him. I don't know what sort of points he's scored in the last few years, John, or whether he's kind of caused you any bother on the leaderboards.
No, because nobody picked him last year, so I wasn't tracking him.
Okay, so
maybe he's a little nugget.
Did pick up some,
yeah,
absolutely.
A little point of differentiation. Pete says that Dan Charlton is there for the whole festival. So Dan's obviously ran up a few very good results in I would say over the last 2 years. He's been getting more and more prolific. We've got 4 mil in winnings at this time. I'm not sure who we were referring to there, Pete, for the 4 million. And Pete also said, I was on a final table with Mr. Ish Valley. Valley?
That's a terrible,
that's an abbreviation of the man's surname at the win. Roland Ish. Yeah, I can't go there.
Israel Ashvili.
That's the one. There you go. So yeah. Neat.
He hasn't won a bracelet, but he has won. I think he's won quite a few rings, in the circuit.
Right. Well, I'm going to assume the 4 mil is for Roland, just based on the fact that it was that both of those comments were coming from Pete.
I think I'm going to pick this guy. I've just had a look. There's a guy, the all-time casher this year, most cashes in 2025, is an American called Sammy Diglawi. I just clicked on him. I was like, I don't recognize this name. What's he about? And obviously we had all the hype last year with who did Landon Tice have that prop bet with? The guy Jeremy Becker, that wins all the dailies and stuff, and he was doing really well. Mm-hmm. This guy, this Sammy bloke. So I'm just going to read you April very quickly, and I'll whistle through. He only plays at Resorts World, plays the $200 tournaments every day and every night. First, second, first, fourth, third, fourth, first, third. He's racked up over 800.
Sorry, this is 1 month.
This is 1 month. This is from the 1st of April.
Wow.
Does he play with his phone on his knee?
I think so, but literally, and then he hasn't played a tournament outside of Resorts World or cashed a tournament outside of Resorts World since the 24th of January. He won that.
Why would he leave? Why would you leave?
He's basically winning the dailies every day at South Point or Resorts World.
I don't think they let him leave.
Goes fishing every day.
No, I don't think they let him leave. I think don't be fooled. He's like Matt Davenport at Grosvenor. Yeah, they just wheel him out for the next tournament.
Absolutely right.
That's how it works.
Absolutely right.
The man's a machine. Absolute machine.
Danny is out there. Danny Strange. Danny says, "Do you need any chips dusting off, Chief Duster?" At your service.
I mean, I just mentioned Matt Davenport, but there's a person that last year had an incredible year with results playing the NPL in the UK. I don't know whether, I know Matt does go out and play in Vegas. He was out there in December playing the WPT around that sort of time. I don't know whether he's got plans of going out for this summer, but actually both Matt and Sinead as a kind of power poker couple would be.
They are going out for the most of it, I saw. And to be fair, Matt obviously had a very, very deep run at EPT last week.
He did. He came 20th, didn't he? 20th or 21st.
Yeah.
Barcelona?
Really well.
Monte Carlo, rather.
Yes, in Monte Carlo.
Hell of a result.
But they did say that they were planning to go out for, I think, six weeks of it. So,
Another British, Richard Ashby won a bracelet last year.
Yeah,
I'm sure somewhere I have a deck of cards that I bought at that gambler's warehouse downtown. That I think.
Well, you could say Gamblers Anonymous for a minute.
Is it Gamblers Warehouse? I can't remember now. I think it's
sure
the Gamblers Superstore or something like that.
I'm sure
definitely wasn't anonymous. There was no.
Definitely not.
But so I went in there one time and I was having a look around, and they have lots of old World Series of Poker cards, right? That are bagged up, and one was from I'm pretty sure it was a Richard Ashby final table when he won a bracelet back in I want to say 2010 or 2011 or something like that.
That's what they told you. What was the premium they charged you for those?
Yeah,
exactly.
They weren't expensively, is all that I can say.
Well, you bought them. We knew they weren't expensive. That was for sure.
Leigh, I sold them for twice the value. Took $20 on those.
Does not surprise me in the slightest.
They travelled well.
Handed in the satellite, by the way, and somehow, even though Dan did double up, he's still 7th of 7. But still hanging on in there, Dan. Yeah.
Here we go. Look,
no rush.
Pete says Richard Ashby was heads up with Adam Owen in the horse.
Adam Owen's another very good pick. Adam
Owen's a great shout. Yeah.
Didn't he?
I saw. I don't know if he's going, but if he's going,
I saw Adam on a some video thing on YouTube. I think it was coming out of the Merit Cyprus. Did he final table in the Merit Cyprus? He came like second or third. Big score.
He's had many a big score.
Yeah,
Adam.
But a good shout. Good shout. If he's over there and playing a big schedule.
And this is the tricky thing, John, isn't it? It's that if thing, isn't it? You can look at somebody and you can look at their results and look how they've done in the last 12 months and try to understand the volume, but you don't actually know. Now, Carl's normally quite blunt, I think is the way I would just describe it. He will happily he will happily just contact people and ask the question, won't he? Is that a fairly common thing for people to do, or is it a case of needing to keep track on people's social media to try and get an understanding of whether they're going to rock up or not?
You can do that, but I mean, Carl's approach is, I mean, you can't beat it, can you? He just goes direct to the person, and
Carl is known. Carl is known now.
Tell me what you're doing for the summer, and some of them do. So he does get some information.
So Pete says, I want to say Adam had 2 seconds in World Series of Poker events. The last one was for $600,000. Wow. Danny says Brandon Shields to win a bracelet this year. So I don't know if you were in I don't know, 15 minutes ago, we were talking about Brandon, Danny. I think some agreement here on that. Apparently Adam had a 3-1 chip lead, heads up with Richard Ashby.
Have they done the big main draft that they organise every year? Because that's often a good indicator as to who's going to play a lot based on who goes for decent money in that. I'm assuming, is it normally DNEG's organised or is part of the team that manages that?
They're doing it opening night, so we.
Oh, they're doing it opening night. Okay, right.
Yeah,
wow.
So it's on the same night as the employees event. So yeah, we
sorry, Dan. When you're talking about that event, you have to do the
There's an asterisk.
Yeah, employees event. Yeah.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So that's the date that's penciled in. So small plug. If you want to find out what's going on, head over to Poker News. We'll be there covering the whole thing. We actually have their draft on the website as well, so all the players are tagged. So if you have picked players that are drafted, you'll be able to find them. They have their own little buttons, icons that you can filter. Small plug, but so that'll be done. I want to say it's the 27th. Is that right? The dates all merged into one now.
I tell you.
I mean, is it worth? So, John, is it worth hanging? Because the employee event doesn't actually ever. I mean, does anybody ever pick up any points from that? Because
it has happened very rarely. I think Brandon Shaq Harris played it before, and
because he was a valet once or something like that. Yeah.
Well, if anybody picked Mike Holtz, who is another really good pick, known as Brock Lesnar online, has won online bracelets on WSOP.com, rings, etc. He presents the Poker News podcast with our team, and he played it last year, and I think he came 10th. So if you'd have had him, you'd have got some points from that event. But you're right, it's very rare, I think.
Yeah, so I mentioned Chuck because he gets picked. He does get a lot of points, like during the series, and he got an extra one from the employees.
So you could quite happily wait, see what happens in the big draft, and see if that gives you any info before putting a team in if you want to. I know that's leaving things last minute for you, John, from an admin point of view, but maybe that's not a bad way of having a better understanding of who's going to turn up if you haven't got Carl's connections, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of information already, and there's a lot of names already, in circulation. So if people wanted to go ahead and put their teams in now, we'd be very happy.
And John, you do give people the option that they can make a change if they need to. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. If they pick the team and then the person doesn't turn up, or for any reason, they just think that they fancy someone else, they can change. We usually allow 2 changes.
And you let Des do those changes right up to day 7 of the main event.
The main event all the way. All the way.
Yeah, he gets to make changes really last minute. Yeah.
I have a certain tax status, Leigh, that allows me to get the earlier points as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. You can put in your team when the main event starts, so that'd be good. Yeah.
Listen, talking about making a small plug, so we're doing a small plug for the Fantasy World Series of Poker. We're doing a small plug for Poker News' involvement, which is grand. Leigh, we should do a small plug for players' opportunity to get to Vegas for £1, right? How about this little beauty? So Poker Raffles, of course, having seen Amanda Smith clear up our main event package. Right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Amanda going off to, in fact, I don't know that she will go, Leigh. She may delay it to next year. I mean, that's an option for her. But in any event, she's won a $10,000 main event buy-in, plus a couple of weeks effectively there for 2. Hotel flights included, stuff like that. 10 days, I think it is. But we're doing another package as well. It's a slightly lighter package. So flights for 2, hotel for 2, tickets £1, and this is I'm putting up Amanda's package there, but this is a $3,500 package, right?
That's where I was getting confused.
Detail
So that was. So yeah, we've got so it draws on the 2nd of June, and basically it will get you entry into the WSOP Ultra Stack event. Plus, it will be flights and hotel for 2, so it's worth £3,500 in total. Tickets are £1, and we're drawing it in about 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So if you fancy giving that a go, already sold nearly 2,000 tickets, I think, for that, heading up towards that sort of number. So,
and you're going to be
getting involved in that.
Yeah, you're going to be there right sort of at the sweet spot of the World Series where main event's starting to become interesting. There should be lots of stuff going on at the time.
Definitely. So back on our satellite, and Dan has snuck himself up into the top 4 here now. So
never in doubt.
Yeah, he's just hanging on there at the moment. Alan Ellis is currently the short stack, but say it's not a huge amount between Alan, Damien, and LDB. So still all to play for. Really, since this went 7-handed, since we got to this final table and lost one straight away, everyone's properly tightened up, playing Dara mode. It feels like they've all read the satellite book, and they're playing absolute 100% doke satellite strategy. So we'll see what happens.
Dan, for live updates this year, what is your plan for Poker News? I mean, is there anything changing in the product? So you've mentioned the ability to obviously go and follow players, by setting up an account at Poker News and stuff. Is there anything else changing within the general, feature set of the product?
No, same as always. We're still the official partner, so we'll be there from day one until the bitter end. I think we've got a team of about 45, 50 strong going, covering it from a live reporting standpoint and a digital media standpoint as well. But yeah, I mean, some slight changes to some of the smaller buy-in events. So we found the product was a little bit diminished in these kind of multi-day one flight, $500, $1,000 events, in which action was so thick and fast, and the schedule, the structures were so quick to kind of get these players. As we know, WSOP like to get the players through the door. There are some events that we won't be covering the day one flights of, and we'll just consolidate on day 2. But the reason that's kind of happened is because those events tend to be paired in the schedule with the bigger high ticket events, your 25Ks, your 10Ks, etc. So it allows us to free up some of the team to cover, the names that people want to see.
And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that just, I could never really understand. You miss so much of what goes on a day one. You're just catching little snippets to try and tell a story, but it's hard work to try and do that. I think. And I think a very sensible thing.
Like, one of our big focuses this year, and one of the things I'm working on in my area of the business is, showing that player story of the average Joe player, And yes, not having day ones in a 500 means we will miss 90% of Dave from Arkansas playing a hand and busting out. But then what it does do is
Dave from Arkansas.
Yeah, Dave who?
Yeah,
how many caches has he had previously?
Has Dave got a surname? Has Dave got a surname?
Smith.
He's in my team. Dave Smith, got him.
Find him. But the good thing is it will then give us more capacity. You might have 6 or 7 regular Joes with a chip stack on day 2, and we'll have more capacity to find out their stories and stuff. Yeah. So actually, you kind of give more focus to those that are in the position that probably need it and deserve it for making day 2, having a stack in a prestigious event, versus thinning ourselves out across the ground to cover all of the kind of innocuous day ones as well. But that's only really maybe 6 or 7 of the events of the 100 bracelet events that are there. So I don't think you'll really notice any difference. But yeah, everything is as is for the rest of it.
Yeah, double up for Alan Ellis through Rich Baker. And that puts Rich in a bit of a spot now himself. This is all up and down on this satellite. Everybody's desperate for these four 4 seats to APAT Coventry. That's for sure. I mean, Danny Strange is in the chat, and he's mentioned it a couple of times. Dan, I'm assuming you played tag team partners in Malta, I'm going to guess, recently?
We did, yeah. That was a bit of
how did that go?
Yeah, we came third.
Not bad.
It was an interesting one. Danny was about to play the satellite. I just finished work for the day, and I jokingly said to him, "You're not playing the tag team. Nobody likes you." And he was like, "No, you want to play?" I was like, "Oh, then let's do it." So we sort of max late regged it, and basically what happened what they did the tag team slightly different, and it was a really fun approach. So you play your stack. So both of you registered as individuals. You played the first, I think, 10 levels as solos. If you busted, you could buy back in as an individual half price to keep your team afloat, but you didn't have to. Anywho, after level 10, the stacks were merged, and then you did alternate levels. Not a fan of alternate levels because it's a bit like you only play the same part of the field from each side, but it is what it is. So we merged our stack. I sat down, span up a stack. Danny came in, lost most of the chips. I came back in, span up the stack. And this was kind of the story all the way through. I think Danny at one point on the final table, and I think
Dusty. I think we call him Dusty from here.
3 or 4 big blinds, and we span it up. And then to be fair, we got very unlucky. We got absolutely. I think we must have had 75-80% to take all the chips three-handed, and we lost that one. Danny lost that one. Sorry, I should say. And then. Ultimately, we came third, but no, it was good fun. I mean, 4:30 in the morning, coming third is a bit bittersweet, but no, it was good. So yes, Danny is the duster of the partnership.
Good stuff. I like it a lot. Simon Lawler's in the chat saying "matey boy," I think referring to our Dave guy. John, do you have a lot of issues with people putting people in a team, and you're going, okay, I haven't got a clue who they're actually talking about, who they've met, who they meant there,
like Roland Ijali,
which is one of the reasons why I've gone for the tick list. So I don't have to spend like a week doing corrections on names and spellings and trying to work.
Is it normally just spellings, or sometimes is it genuinely I haven't got a clue who they've actually picked? It is a complete random person.
Yeah, no, it has happened. Yeah, that the players said I don't know, so I check them out on Hand Them Up or something, see if it's spelled right, and put them in. We've got a celebrity entry so far this year. We're still waiting to hear back from Alan Kessler, of course. Carl has contacted him, but we've had an entry from Yuval Bronstein.
Oh yeah, no way! He was a final tableist back, 15 years ago, I'm sure.
Yeah, so he's in.
Very cool.
And we'll see if we get any more. We're hoping for lots, obviously.
Talking about Rich Baker is all in with Queen 5 and pocket 8. And he's not going to get any luck there. LTV is going to pick those up, and Rich will finish in 7th. So we're down to 6. Top 4 will pick up a seat. Other 2 are going to get a bit of cash.
Tell you what,
how do they hear about it, John? So how did he hear about it?
Carl, how else?
Yeah, Carl's on a commission.
Yeah, fair enough.
Carl's the man. He contacts everyone.
I'm guessing his hit rate must be quite low, though, John.
Pardon?
His hit rate must be quite low, though, if we've only got possibly Alan and Yuval in this year. Given that he must contact thousands.
Yeah, I saw he's contacted Robert Mizrachi and all these players. And
brilliant, good for him.
We're waiting to hear back.
Our agents are speaking to their agents, right?
Yes, might be a while.
Oh dear. Gents, either of you going to Coventry next week for ECOEP festivities?
Yes, I'll be there. Wednesday and Thursday, I think, for me.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Mix.
Excellent. What do you think of the schedule, boys?
Did John say he was going?
He did.
Yeah, I know, I'm busy.
I'm washing my hair. What do you think of the schedule, guys? What stands out? What are you, outside of the main, what are you looking to play?
I'm going to play 8-game and Torse. I think that's the highlight for me. So I've kind of wormed it into a work meeting or two that I need to have anyway at the venue, so it worked out pretty well.
Nice.
So that'll be for me. And the weekend's a busy one with kids and stuff again, so we'll leave the silly 2-card games to the pros. We'll play all the silly banana games, so that'll be fun. But no, it looks like another good schedule. Keeping going. Well done.
Excellent.
You guys going? I know Leigh's not going. I've already asked this. Des, are you going to make an appearance?
No, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. It's Colonel Tom.
Oh, I'm definitely
who will be
okay.
I'm
raising
not going.
the stick. Sorry, John, you were saying, what are you looking forward to, my friend?
I'm not going if you're not going, Des.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't believe that, John. What are you looking to play, my friend?
Just to be honest, John, you were over in the Irish Open and Des hasn't been over there, so I mean you do frequent poker events without him. Yeah.
Pop up in strange places. Yeah, I'm pretty much similar to Dan. I mean, I'm mainly like the mixed games, so I play some of them. I try to get there for Wednesday. I'm not sure yet whether I'll get there for that, but from there on, I'll play most of the mixed games.
So to be fair, there's a decent selection in Coventry. So apart from the two you mentioned, I think there's also a Deuce 7 low ball. There's a round of each low, which is it Omaha and Stud, I think, as well in there. So there's probably at least half of the events I think are mixed games this time round. There's a PLO and there's a PLO 456 in there as well. So, but there still is some no limit hold'em stuff. Obviously, you've got the main event. There's also a mystery bounty shootout, a win the button as well, and a normal bounty as well. So there is plenty of stuff for those that only play the 2-card variants, but there is a nice selection of mixed games across what's only 5 days. So it's 12 events across 5 days if you want to get involved in any of those, and you can still win your seat into that if you want to. There's an APAT draw on Poker Raffles tomorrow night with a few tickets left for that one, and you can win a £140 seat for £1 and use it to play anything you like in Coventry. Basically, if that's what you
see, the WSOP has copied APAT now because they've brought in a Torse event in their schedule this year, which I think first appeared in APAT.
I think it's going to become the norm, isn't it? I think. Is that pretty much a fair? I mean, I don't play those games myself, but I'm going to assume that there was always the frustration with the hold'em side of horse, and so that's a better fit for the other games. Is that
it is. A lot of the bigger mixed games festivals in Europe have adopted it already, and I think you'll slowly start to see it filter through, because ironically mixed games seem to be flourishing in Europe, where probably less so now than they are across the shores in America, interestingly.
And do you think that to a certain extent is because there's this feeling that No Limit Hold'em has kind of, I don't want to say solved, because solved isn't the right but there's a feeling that it's become so difficult to actually be profitable out of it unless you've actually properly studying it now, the strategy and all of the all of the charts as to what's right and what's wrong. It's become very black and white as to how to play that game. So is it with the mixed games, it's just a lot tougher to actually be able to get that to a high level, so therefore it's a bit more enjoyment for recreational poker players to play those games?
I think there's some of that. I think the other thing we have to be mindful of is, poker's booming. However, those with disposable income are very much older nowadays, especially with all the things we've had going on, COVID, etc. And these are games that that generation played and enjoyed, and I think there's much more enjoyment around poker as something to go and spend your money on to enjoy versus playing for a living, etc.
Alan's all in with 9-5. He needs to hit and doesn't. And we lost Razor Roy in 6th place. Alan was only had 4 bigs. And congratulations, Dan.
Wow.
You've bagged yourself a seat, my friend. Very well done indeed. Well done to Damien. Well done to 13 Tricks, which is Wendy, I believe, and LDB as well. Bjorn Heiderstrom as well. Alan Seymour Tilts will have to pick up the £56. Still a nice result for him. Roy picks up a bit of cash, as does Rich Baker in 7th. So well done to you guys in the satellite tonight, and thanks for playing that. Another one next week.
Does that mean that Dan has to play the Hold'em now?
Yeah. Basically, he's got to play. Yeah, he's got to play the Hold'em event. He's auto-regged for it now. Basically, that's what that means.
Yeah, great.
That's not bad for Damien. So Damien was up at Dusk Till Dawn today playing the UKPC Masters warm-up on the back of a poker raffles ticket.
Fantastic result.
Had a decent run in that. Two levels short at the end of the day. Got home, jumped into this satellite, and has now got himself £140 ticket into an APAT event. Not a bad Sunday, really, all in all.
On a decent run, I would say, Leigh. So Damien says, thanks, guys. Steve says, can't make Coventry. He's on a cruise for a wedding anniversary with his missus. But he does go on to ask, it's an interesting question.
How do you know it's that you don't know it's their wedding anniversary? They could just be on a cruise.
Well, he does say, me and wife on cruise for wedding anniversary. That's my take on it. But harder to comment on maybe is, does Dan think we can get another John Hesp story like in 2017, a rec player going deep in the main event? I mean, it's true, like, whether we're talking a John Hesp, a true rec player, or, a non-pro, it's getting harder. Seems to be getting a lot harder for an amateur player to make it all the way in the main event.
I don't believe so. There's some parameters. I don't think you'll ever see a John Hesp story, a Jamie Gold story, a Chris Moneymaker story. I don't think that's possible. There's the field is so much bigger. The structure is even more improved. The starting stacks increased, etc., etc. I just think there are far too many decision points throughout the 7 days of poker that feasibly mean that that's likely. Could it happen? Of course, there's outliers, but I don't think the probability is there. If you look at the WSOP main event final table lists, and even like the final 3 tables for the last 2 or 3 years, it's very, very hard to spot a rank amateur in there.
Amateur,
you might have some, whatever you want to call them, semi-pro or up-and-comers. That's definitely something, because the game is studied and there's a lot more kind of unknown players, I suppose, that are getting much, much better and are probably just not known because they're not in the public eye. But I just think that the amount of decision points now and the size of the field, I would struggle to see it happening. I hope it does.
I think it's minimizing. It's minimizing mistakes, and that's what the pros are good at is minimizing the number of mistakes that they make. And if they do make a bit of a mistake, they can get away with it. I think a rec player would make too many mistakes across 7 or 8 days, and you have to be on the right side of every one of those.
You need a rec player that has very good controlled aggression. I watched, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but genuinely I would recommend it. There's a YouTube series. Last year they filmed Adrian Mateos, the Winamax Pro, throughout his main event run, and I think he finished like 100th or something. And it basically breaks down every day. They had a whole, if you were at the WSOP, you might have seen it last year, but for Winamax, they had license to film at the tables. And they literally had, on every day, on every table he was on, a full camera setup. He was mic'd up and they were filming the whole thing. And they would pick, in this show, they picked like, an hour's worth of hands to break down. And he then talks through his decision points and talks through his reasoning and so on and so forth. And for a recreational player, I think it will absolutely blow people's minds just about how many levels and layers of detail there are in just getting to a decision between call, raise and fold in any particular spot. And what you learn from watching that is that aggression is just so important. The reason these pros can go deep is because they can lose some all-ins. And the reason they can lose all-ins is because they have chips. And this kind of, and I say this, maybe a bit in jest, but most recreationals that go to an event for their one shot are going to be excited, but probably a bit more passive than even they would normally be. And I think on the whole, they're much more passive. And the problem with that is when your tournament, when you finally go all in, your tournament life's at risk, and you have to try and retain the equity you have in that spot, which is out of your hands. But you watch a player like this, he's in all-in confrontations very frequently. But the point is, he's always got enough chips to cover it because he's picking off, these spots. He's raising on turns when maybe most people would call because he senses weakness or whatever it may be. But he's accumulating lots and lots of small pots here, there, and everywhere under the radar to be able to take the hits. And I think the downside to a recreational player playing their first main event or whatever it may be is they are so worried about making the next level, making the next day, not making a mistake, that they're never in that position. So when they do finally get their chips in, they have to win that pot. And I think that's the structure now is better, increased starting stack from maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Obviously, you've got your 2-hour blind levels. It's just not a tournament.
Don't kill the dream, Dan. Don't kill the dream. Well, we all remember Jerry Yang, when he was stood up and he was like 4.5 feet tall. And it was like, just, I'm all in. I'm all in all the time. Jamie Gold, same thing, just power poker. Didn't care. I'm all in.
But this is it. But those two, the difference between those two are they just put their chips in the middle. They just put everybody else.
This is the dream, though, right? Oh, yeah, anybody 100%. Can do it, on your. But of course, it's not on your day now, as Leigh rightly said. It's on your week because you have to get it right over a 10-day tournament, next to impossible. But the dream is still there, right? Anybody who puts down their $10,000, in theory, they've got reasonable instincts, could do it.
And wow! Anybody that puts down their £10, Des, they are definitely in with a chance of winning the WSOP fantasy competition this year. That is for sure. Are we trying to break the record, John? Last year's record is it looking to try and beat that number? Is that the plan?
For sure? Yeah, absolutely. We've beaten it every year. Well, apart from the COVID year, we've increased every year, and
that's asterisks next to that year. That doesn't count. Anyone
that won
anything, anyone that won anything in that year, it doesn't count.
The World Series was a rubbish one in itself. Anyway, that time. Yeah, so we've been over 100.
So let's just remind everybody what they need to do. They need to head over to the Facebook group. We've linked it in the show stream and everything here as well. We'll also make sure it's in the APAT group as well. In there, you've got all the details of what they need to do. It's basically picking 10 players, no restrictions. So any 10 that you like, you pop it into a Google Doc, if I remember rightly. So it's already populated for you, John, and then you pays your money over to Carl. He accepts brown envelopes and all sorts, doesn't he? He's quite happy with that. And then it's over to you guys. You guys then manage it and put all the time and effort in for the next couple of months.
Brilliant.
To update the scores, and we all sit back and bemoan why we didn't. I was thinking about picking him, and he was in my original list, and then I changed it and all of that nonsense that goes on. Do you enter a team, John? I can't remember whether do you put a team in now, or do you find it?
Yeah, and I take I have a strategy of trying to find players who've kind of done well but aren't on people's radars and so on, and that's worked abysmally for me so far. I've never scored.
Get Carl to pick your team, John.
In all the years, but I'm convinced that's the way to do it. Find players. There's a player last year who won 2 bracelets, and I bet nobody even remembers him.
Sorry, do you not remember him, John?
I don't remember.
I couldn't remember him.
Look, I can see Dan's going, okay, who's he talking about? I'm going to work it out.
Yeah. There's a player the year before, Cole Ferraro, who I do remember. I picked him last year, and of course he bombed. Didn't give me anything. So, that's my kind of strategy. But it doesn't work.
So basically, before you pick your team, try and see who John is picking, and don't pick any of them.
Don't pick any of them. Yeah. But one thing you mentioned, but the payment, there is a button on the entry form to PayPal. So that'll just lead people through to make the payment through via PayPal.
Oh, and you need to also just tick the sending to friends and family thing, isn't it? So Carl doesn't get inundated with a lot of charges and all of that. All of that info is in the group, though. It's also a super group to be in because there's loads of fun. There's Carl's had some guess the names of poker player competitions and all sorts of stuff happening before, so it is well worth getting into that group. They will let you in if you're not in it yet. Just knock on the door 3 times and ask nicely. Won't be a problem whatsoever. They will let you in. So the important thing is, if you want in from the start for a points point of view, it is a week Tuesday. First event is a week Tuesday. Reality is, you can probably leave it to maybe the Wednesday if you need to.
Get in.
Don't leave it any later than that, though.
Get in.
Because if you leave it any later than that, you're going to miss out on points, and that is not a good way to be. So if you can get it in early, helps John out as well, because it means he's got a bit more time to get things all organised. But head over to the Facebook group and check it out. It's good fun for the next couple of months, and a good way of keeping up to date with what's going on in Vegas. And it's going to be a busy one.
And once it starts, we would like people to get involved and keep posting, kind of reacting to the posts that we have, and join in the conversation. It makes it a lot more fun if people join in the conversation in the group.
Absolutely. Show your rage, your frustration, all of those things, and enjoy it. Enjoy the summer, guys. The World Series of Poker, it's coming around again. So I guess, folks, we're going to leave it there for the evening. Good job to our satellite winners tonight, including Mr. Bjorn / Dan, sat with us. Thanks for joining tonight, Dan and John. Get your entries in, folks. I think that's it from Leigh and I and our guests tonight. We'll be back on Sunday night. Are we going to be back Sunday night, Leigh?
2 weeks' time.
It's 2 weeks' time. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, folks. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on a Sunday. But of course, if you are raffling, you can catch us tomorrow night. And there looks to be a ton of value in that one. The Party Poker
huge
Live is a ton of value. Right? Get in!
Value tomorrow night. If you want to go to Manchester to play the next Party Poker Live tour event in Manchester next month, go and buy yourself a ticket for tomorrow night's draw, because there is going to be super value in it. So well worth getting involved in.
Fantastic. Okay, we will leave it there. Good night, everybody. Have a great week ahead.